Nicky Billou is a Christian immigrant from the Middle East. He's grateful to live in a free country, living in the West, surviving as an entrepreneur, helping people scale their businesses, and spending 7 years working in the podcasting industry. He's helped many people you know, create their dreams, basically, just through their businesses. And sharing that knowledge through the podcasting industry has been obviously very helpful. And now we're just grateful to have him on our podcast so that he can share his insights and his help there. Now, Nikki, I wanted to start with one question, just like as a basic introduction. Um, why is it important for people to start their own business? What's what's so important about that?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, thanks very much for having me on the show. And
Anytime.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So, I believe that God Almighty has made us human beings and that his intention for us is to be free. Freedom is a gift given to all human beings by God. It's not a gift from a government, from a political leader, a religious leader. It's a gift from God. And that gift was intended to be used to create our own path, our own uh, way forward. And
Hmm.
to me, every human being innately understands this. In their heart, they can feel it. They know this was what they were meant and created to do. And those of us that are fortunate enough to get into starting a business or being an entrepreneur realize that it is the greatest vehicle for personal empowerment and freedom that exists, because you get to choose what you're going to do with your time. You get to create a a way to take care of your family, all the people you love that are important to you, your clients, and you get to make money.
Hmm.
And this is why business is fantastic and amazing for those that are lucky enough to understand that freedom is the basis of life, gift from God,
Yeah,
and that business is the best way to express freedom.
that's interesting. That's that's definitely. I wonder why not everyone once seeks that. Like, why aren't there many people that who are wanting to create their own businesses? Why do people prefer to have just a stable job, steady income, simple? If like the business can provide you with all of these different freedoms that you can attain, what's what's stopping people from entering that field?
I can't speak for people, but my observation is it's usually fear. Usually
Hmm.
fear. They're afraid to be free. They'd rather be in chains, living in the illusion of safety and security, than to be free,
Hmm.
free to succeed, but also free to fail.
Wow. I feel like we've been talking a lot about freedom lately these days.
Yeah,
It plays in our in the subconscious a bit. Sorry,
I
Ali, you
I
wanted
know
to
you're
comment.
talking about freedom, but I want to ask you more questions about opposite end of that, like regulation. At what point uh do businesses need to be regulated versus how much should they be totally free to go, in your opinion?
Now, I'm a freedom absolutist. I don't think there really ought to be a ton of regulation beyond making sure that business isn't doing something that's going to hurt and kill people. Uh, Other than that, and there ought to be laws around that for everybody, not just for business. But other than that, I think anything should be able to to go. Really, um, don't be evil. That used to be the motto of Google. I don't know if you remember, but the people who
Now it's
founded
the
Google,
opposite.
that motto,
Now it's how can we take over the world?
don't be, don't be evil. And I thought that was a pretty cool motto. Too bad that they don't really believe in that anymore. But I thought it was pretty great.
You know, Nikki, I love your books, Finish Line Thinking and the Thought Leader's Journey. They really helped me set goals for myself and have a vision of how to be a leader, how to get the goals I want, to have the success that I want in my life. But I don't know. There's part of me and part of the culture also makes me feel like success is something scary. I mean, every time we hear of a billionaire nowadays has a negative connotation. When it used to be something people used to look forward to, now it's something that people hate billionaires. People. So what is your thought on that and the culture?
Well, I don't know that I necessarily agree with your premise. I don't think people hate
Hmm.
billionaires. I think there's certain very small, tiny minority voices that hate billionaires, and they've always been around. It's just right now because of social media, those voices get amplified. Um, but it's my belief that everybody, if they could be a billionaire, would be a billionaire. Certainly, everybody going into business. I mean, it's what a beautiful thing to be able to have that sort of fortune, to be able to create a life, a legacy with that kind of money. I think it's a beautiful thing. It truly is.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Saeed?
And yeah, I wanted so I want to go a bit about your personal life because so you say you're from the Middle East and that now you're helping people to scale their businesses and having your own business in the West. How was it transferring, you know, yourself from the Middle East, integrating yourself into the West, and then building a business there? Like what were the obstacles you faced and how what was like the main obstacle you faced living in the West?
Well, I
Let's
was
start with that.
quite young when I left Iran. I'm from Iran. And
Yeah.
I was 13 years old when we left Iran. And by the time I went to Greece with my family, my mother, my father, and my two brothers. And
Hmm.
then 2 years later, we were in Canada. So for a 13-year-old, it's culture shock. That's what it was for me. I went from one
Yeah.
culture to an entirely different culture. And to tell you the truth, at the time, I didn't want to go. I was angry with mom and dad for taking us. So they kept telling us, don't worry, we'll go back, we'll go back. But of course, we never did. Um, but looking back now, it was fantastic that they got us out because I left 1 month before Iraq invaded Iran in
Mm.
1980. If I were there, I would have joined the military. And the Iranian military at the time was sending young kids to go clear minefields, and most of
Oh
them
my
died.
God.
Oh, wow.
So I probably would not have survived. I probably would have died in that war, uh, or been horribly maimed. So, you know,
You
but
got a
when
second
I came,
chance.
I did. When I came here, it was just trying to fit in, trying to adopt, and it took me, I would say, a good 10 years before I truly
Yeah.
felt like, hey, this is who I am. This is where I am. Uh, but once I had become a Canadian, as it were, I started to appreciate all the wonderful things about Canada, the diversity of thought,
Hmm.
the fact that you could say something about the prime minister and the secret police weren't going to knock on your door in the middle of the night and drag you away and shoot you.
Yeah.
That was in Iran. My mom and dad told me to shut up and keep my mouth shut because that would happen.
Hmm.
That would
Mm.
happen. The
Yeah.
secret police would show up in the middle of the night and drag you out of your bed and kill you. And it's a beautiful thing to live in the West. And as I said before at the beginning of your podcast, inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. And my father, he was a big entrepreneur, a big champion for freedom. He believed in people. He'd always tell me, son, life is about people. It's not about money. And I was 8 years old when he first said this to me. I'm like, okay, dad. And then he said, business, son. is about people. It's not about money. And then I'm 8, right? So I'm a smart aleck. I go, what are you talking about, Dad? Of course, business is about money. Without money, you can't have any business. And I thought, I got you, Dad. And then he goes, that's true, son. But without people, there's no need for money, no need for business. All business is solving problems for people for a profit. That's the purpose of business. And I learned this from my father. And my father would always tell me that man in front of you, he's someone's brother, he's someone's son, he's someone's husband, right? Someone's father. He's a hero to somebody. Maybe a man just like you disappointed him in business. It's your job to restore his faith in humanity. He said every human being needs
Mm,
someone to care about them and believe in them because we all lose faith in ourselves. And he said, my job, son, every day is to believe in the people around me and to find people to believe in. And I'm like, I wanted to be like my dad when I grew up, man. I'm my father's son, you know. He passed away 4 years ago, February 23rd, 2020. But when he died, he passed
wow.
the Billou torch to me of believing in people. And that's how I do my business. Is I believe in people. I'm a professional believer in people.
Wow. I mean, that's a very heartwarming story. And thank you for sharing that, Nikki, by the way.
My pleasure.
Um,
Thanks for having me here to share it.
no, anytime, man. Um, Ali, do you have a
Yeah,
question to ask?
I was wondering if you still think the American dream is still the same as what it was when you first came to the United States, or has that
Well,
changed?
I'm in Canada actually, not in the United States.
Oh,
But look,
the idea.
The Canadian dream.
I think the idea of the American dream is one of the most alluring and exciting ideas in the world, and I think it's still alive, even though there's some communists that are trying to destroy it in America, uh, and they haven't destroyed it yet. But it's harder for people than it ever was. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's still available, and you need to believe in yourself and in the beauty of your dreams. And you know, I believe that America is a great country, and I believe that the American people are going to do the right thing this time around, and they're not going to let the communists win. And I believe that God is on our side. God
um.
is, if you look at what happened to Donald Trump on July
Mm-hmm,
13th, an
mm-hmm.
assassin tried to kill him. That bullet was
Yep.
going in his head. And yet at the last minute, God turned his head so it didn't kill him. That was not, you can call it whatever the hell you want. You can call it luck. You can call it a freak.
Divine
But
intervention.
if you are really understanding how insignificant we human beings are, and that only could have been divine intervention, only, then you know that God is on the side of good and right because of that. Because if he was not, he would have let that man be killed that day.
Mm-hmm.
He would have let that happen. And it's my opinion that if he had been killed that day, there would be a war in America right now, a
Oof.
full out
Mm-hmm.
civil war. But it
Wow.
wasn't. And
I mean,
I also
Yes.
believe that the forces of darkness, of the devil, of evil, they're the ones right now that are running the American government.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that they are trying so hard to cheat, to kill, because they know in their hearts that they are in the wrong. They know it, and I think that God will do what He will do. And if He does what I believe He'll do, then I think America will continue to stay free. It'll be a place where people can make money and live their dreams for generations to come. But if I'm wrong,
mhm,
then if the light is extinguished in America, expect it to be extinguished in the world within 20 years.
Wow.
interesting. So, how would you s- how would you describe the U.S. under Donald Trump if he wins, and how would you describe the U.S. under Kamala Harris if she wins?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't quite
So,
catch that.
oh, yeah, of course. Um, so my question is, how would you describe the U.S. if Trump is the president in the next if he wins in the next elections, and if how would you describe the U.S. under the leadership of Kamala Harris if she wins the elections?
Well, if Trump wins the election, I think the traditional America, freedom America, will survive and the
Mm-hmm.
economy will grow.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because you have an example of what it was like when he was president before. This was a multi billionaire entrepreneur and he ran an economy. To no one's surprise, he did a great job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
if Kamala Harris wins, well, I think the economy is going to be shit. And how do I say that? Well, you can see what's happened over the last 3 years. And if she
Mm-hmm.
wins, to no one's surprise, it'll continue to be shit or get even worse.
No,
Do
I
you think
don't
fair
think
any?
this is a
argument.
difficult question.
So
I
there's
don't think
nothing
this is a
positive that will
difficult
come from Kamala
question. Very
Harris.
difficult one to answer. Nothing positive. She's fun to laugh at and make jokes about.
Ah,
This
um,
was a question just to lighten the mood, I guess. Yeah.
Nikki, I had a question about so Canada is a lot more communist than the United States. They have, however that translates, right? They have universal health care, higher tax rates, etc. It's definitely more restrictive there for business. Why are you still there if you don't have an opportunity to come to the United States of freedom?
Well, first of all, to come to the US, you need to follow certain legal processes and procedures. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I'm a father of two sons, and my family is here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a decision that's not mine to make alone. I'm not a single man. If I were a single man, I'd be
Gotcha.
gone. I'd have been gone a long time ago.
Mm.
Okay. No, totally fair. So you're sticking with your family, and that's a beautiful thing. That
It
despite
really
the
is.
fact that you have ideas and ideology that at the end of the day, what truly matters to you, your priorities lie with your family.
As it should be for any man. And I'll also say this the Canadian Conservative Party is expected to crush the communists in the next election. They're expected, they're given an over 99% chance of winning 2/3 of the seats in the parliament. And Canada is a parliamentary
Wow.
democracy. And if you win 2/3 of the seats, you basically control the government.
And that's
Wow. That's
gonna change things.
that's a
That's gonna change
landslide.
how we see
Yeah.
Canada. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pierre Poilievre is a deeply conservative man. And I expect that once he gets in, Canada will dramatically change course.
Man, today's
So
been
what
such
are
a fire episode, Side. What do you think so far?
yeah, it's going great. I want to learn more about what are the new policies that Canada is going to implement with this new government.
Well, first of all, they're going to axe the carbon tax. So Justin Trudeau has instituted a carbon tax, which has raised prices on gasoline, food, housing,
Hmm.
energy, everything. He's going to axe it on day one. So uh, immediately, I believe
Wow.
that'll cause prices of things like gasoline and food and other energy to go down by 30 to 40%. That'll be fantastic for Canadians. They'll have more money available to them to spend. Secondly, Justin Trudeau has instituted catch and release bail policy. So even very dangerous criminals are caught and then they get released on bail, even if they're a danger to society. It's really fucked up. So those will end.
Yeah.
So Canada's streets will become much safer. Um, and then this whole gender insanity where they pretend men are women Uh, I think that's going to be drastically curtailed. There won't be official cover given to that. That'll be good for parents, for kids, for the moral fiber of the nation. And then finally, I think
So,
that immigration will be cut back a bit. We need that to happen because, Canada is a nation of immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself. I believe in
You're an
immigration,
immigrant
but
too. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
mhm.
it's a good thing. But you need to control immigration. You can't let in 1 million people a year in a country of 35 million. That's insane. Maybe you let in 200,000, 300,000 a year. That's about it.
Hmm. It's
Okay.
interesting that you mentioned that, especially since um, you yourself are an immigrant. Like, I understand that the population size will get affected, which will affect policies and the
Housing.
economic situation
Housing
Yeah.
and
prices in Canada
social
are insane,
services.
Totally.
man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're letting people in for no good reason except they think they'll vote for the Liberal Party, also known as the New Communist Party of Canada.
Oh God, fair.
New
No, that those
NCPC.
are that's a good point, to be honest. Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
you look
I
at
mean, I'm
countries
guessing
like
the
Argentina, right?
Mm-hmm.
Javier Milei, and countries like
Mm-hmm.
El Salvador, Nayib Bukele. These countries have elected a libertarian and a very conservative Catholic man
Mm-hmm.
as their leaders, and these guys have governed
mm,
from their principles. Argentina's inflation is dead in under a year. Uh, El Salvador used to be the most dangerous country in the
Mm-hmm.
world. It is now the safest country in the world. And that happened in less than 5 years. How's this possible? Good leadership, good
Yep.
policies.
Totally.
it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
being liberal these days is not a good side to to be on.
No, no, no.
We're really getting
Uh,
into it today. We've started off with freedom and regulation. We went to Trump and Kamala, Middle East, America, capitalism, communism. We're hitting all the debates today.
yeah,
Let's get into it.
exactly. And now we're shitting on the liberals. Let's go.
All right, let's talk about AI a bit. Tell us about
Sure.
your vision of AI and how that integrates. You're a man of visions. You can see the future clearly. What does that look like when AI is integrated into society?
Well, Elon Musk had a conversation with Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm,
Jordan Peterson asked him, Elon, what do you see happening with AI? Because he has this company called Grok, right? And
yeah.
Grok is a word that comes from a Robert Heinlein novel called Stranger in a Strange Land. Fantastic novel. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jordan Peterson said, what's the future of AI? He said, well, very soon AI will be stronger than and smarter than any one human. He said, okay, but
Yeah.
AI will not too far distant in the future be stronger and smarter than all of humanity combined. And I'm like, whoa, that's
Damn.
deep. So what does that mean? It could decide that it wants to rule humanity. It's just like, Terminator movies from back in the 80s and 90s. Are we
Mm-hmm.
going to have an AI system come and hunt down humans? Like, you
Oh
think
my
about
god.
this is some craziness, right? Um, like, there's an excitement to AI. There are tools you can use to write, to create automated systems. I think you can integrate AI into human beings' lives in any way, shape, or form possible. But I think we need to be careful about how far we let it go. And unregulated AI, that's one thing
Mm-hmm.
that could potentially be scary. Could be.
So what's the solution in that case? How do we regulate AI?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that, but I think it's a question worth asking.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't think I am,
I,
the person with the background to be able to properly answer it. But I would like to have someone like Elon Musk be at the forefront of these discussions with the
yeah.
most important government leaders and business leaders in the world. Most business leaders are pussies. They have no balls. They have no ability to go after standing for what's right and making the right decision. So I don't think most of them should
Hmm.
be involved in anything because they just haven't got the guts to take a real stand. But and Elon Musk, I think I trust Elon to do what's right for humanity. I just
Yeah.
do. He just comes across as he cares about humanity more than he cares about other things. So I'd like to have him be a part of this and people like him. I definitely don't want to have Kamala Harris in charge of AI. As Donald, as Donald Trump Jr. said, I don't think she can spell AI.
That's a good one. Okay, so you've studied leadership. In your opinion, Elon's a great leader, and then
Yeah.
Kamala, not great leader. Why is it that in politics, a lot of our leaders are not great, as you can say, when those are the people that need to be the best of the best, right? That's what I would assume. You think of a president, you think of someone great, like Abraham Lincoln, like visionary leader, not I don't know, some average person with no vision.
I agree with you. Um, Not an easy question to answer, but I'll tell you that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that are attracted to politics as a profession are not the best people.
Mm-hmm.
They're people that are attracted to power. They're megalomaniacs. They're sociopaths, in some cases, even psychopaths. And
Hmm.
nobody who's a good person wants to be involved in politics for too long. I mean, America's first president was maybe its greatest, George Washington. After 2 terms, he retired. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
thought he was going to stay on and hold on to power, but he didn't.
Wow.
And Abraham Lincoln, you talk about Ronald Reagan, guys like that,
Mm-hmm.
those are the types of people we need. But right now, man, Obama, he retired in 2016, 2017, yet he's still trying to run things from the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Think that's a good guy? I don't think that's a good guy. I think that's a piece of crap, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's an interesting point. I don't think I've heard a lot of bad things about Obama, so I'm a bit surprised to hear this opinion about him. Um,
He's a Marxist. He's an absolute doctrinaire Marxist. He wants to change America into a Marxist society, and he started that process when he was president. All his mentors are Marxists and revolutionaries. So
Hmm.
Obama's not a good fellow.
I
Don't
guess
you?
that's why Obamacare didn't succeed, right?
It didn't succeed really well. At what point did you start learning about all the stuff, leadership? Um, yeah, what made you go down this path? Like, why is this the your main focus in life? Business, leadership, writing your book, spreading the word.
Good question. Well, I grew up in the revolution in Iran. And I saw the difference between
Mm-hmm.
a good leader and a bad leader.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been fascinated by that.
Mm,
Everything rises and falls on leadership, says John Maxwell, the author of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I think he's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to live a good world in a good world, you want to live a good life, you need to learn about leadership for yourself. You need to learn how to follow the right leaders as well.
it Now that you mention Iran, and which obviously has a massive influence on the region and the Middle East,
Yeah.
being a businessman in the West, but having origins from the like having your roots from there, does that ever affect your business? Does that ever affect your customer relations, or how maybe relationships are built in the business industry, like in the business world?
Look, not really. Nobody really cares. They just want to know that I'm a good
Okay, fair
person and
enough.
I care about them and I'm going to be honest in my dealings.
Fair enough. I mean, if it's that simple, then it's that simple. um,
It is.
so a question that I did want to also ask about was when you're first starting off with your business, if you're starting something, a new business with someone, what are the best ways to possibly improve your relationship with your business partner? Because there's your relationship with the customers, your suppliers, and then there's also your business partner.
Well, I think you need to keep your eye. A business marriage is still a marriage, right? So you need to treat
Yeah.
your partner like you're in marriage with them because you are. You need to find out what's
Hmm.
important to them. You need to address it. You need to have good communication and you need to do things that'll make them happy. And they hopefully will do the same for you because it's a two-way street. I have had partners. It's tough because my partnerships have all in the end broken up.
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to maintain one uh, over a long period of time. Like there has to be something really connecting you guys, especially if you want it to be like at the best level.
Absolutely. Has
And
to be. It's got to be more than we're
how do
trying to
you
make
know?
money together. It has to be a shared vision of the future. And
Mm,
my partnerships broke up when it was clear our visions of the future were not the same anymore.
yeah. How do you find out about these? Like, what kind of conversation do you need to have with your partner that so that you guys can figure out if you guys are a match or not?
It's difficult to do beforehand. It'll really be figured out over time because the partnerships I entered into at the beginning, everybody was excited and seemed to be on the same page.
Hmm.
But after a few months and years, it became obvious there was some divergence. If you look at Steve Jobs, right, in the 80s, he brought in this guy, John Scully, to help him run Apple. At first,
Hmm.
everything was great.
Yeah.
After about a year, it wasn't so great. Jobs was out.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of like ploys and like things that are happening in the background that not necessarily you as one of the partners would see happening. And like it reminds me of like the the theme, the king's court. So like back in feudal times, or like when there was kingdoms, in the king's court there was obviously the king and the queen, and then there was all of these other characters who were there that were all trying to get like basically the attention of the king or the ear of the king, basically gain his trust, so that they can all have a different that they can have a role in how the powers to be get played. And it feels like in a business it's a very similar case.
Yes.
It's like there's a lot of these actions happening in the background that the king might not see happening until like the last second, but the king has to be aware of all of them at the same time. Like that is a proper king.
Well, my business is a small business. There's just two of us that
Hmm.
work in it, and everybody else are contractors.
Hmm.
So it's not an issue for me. But if a business is a more significant business that has 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people in it, then what you're saying really
Mm.
applies very strongly in that situation.
So
Man,
now that yeah,
I
sorry,
have a
Ali, go ahead.
comment too, Said. Yeah, this makes me really think about the Mr. Beast situation. I'm not totally sure if you guys are familiar with what's happening with Mr. Beast. He's getting canceled big time for running illegal lotteries and such like that, and promoting gambling to
Wow.
kids and stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so
No, I,
so it just and a lot of it happened from when he
Uh,
was younger and promoting like gambling to kids, and like it's like, oh, if you buy this shirt now, I'm gonna put $10,000 or a PS5 in this shirt, and he would never actually send it to those people. He'd send it to his friends, and anyways, so it makes me think that how important it
that's
is for
crazy.
us to.
Never heard of
Yes, this is brand new on the coming out stuff, and he's huge, right? And he has this huge business with hundreds of employees, and it's really
Oh
taking a
my
toll
God, does he
because
ever
of
ask?
he's getting hit, and so it just makes me think about how you have to be ethical and moral, even if you're not a big business, because at any point you can turn into a big business, and then all the skeletons from your past or all the actions you do that got you to where you became big, that could be a liability. And when you're doing everything in such a good way, you don't want to make these kinds of mistakes. I know. You ever think about that kind of stuff, Nikki? No.
Honestly, man, I'm not I'm a good man. I
Yep.
know who I am, and no, I don't think about that stuff because you know. And
I guess that's
when I
fair.
work with clients, like if I have business owner clients, I don't work with dishonest people. And if someone shows themselves
Hmm.
to be dishonest, I drop them like a hot rock. It doesn't matter how much money they're paying me. Nothing is as important to me as being true to myself and to my God. I don't want to work with a shithead.
And you,
I believe in people, but in good people. If you're not a good person, go away. That's my take on it. If you're a good person,
you
I'll help make you rich, right? I'll help make you
right,
rich. That's what
totally.
I'm known for. I make guys
Hmm.
rich. I've helped guys add hundreds of thousands to millions, even tens of millions to their income. I'm really good at it. But I'm not ever going to sacrifice my good opinion of myself for money. For fucking money? That's ridiculous. Forget it.
Totally. So we don't expect to see you on Epstein's island. Because no,
No, bro.
that's bad. No way.
I'm
Even if Bill
57.
Gates is
My
there.
my woman is older than I am. So just so you know. And I'm 57.
Hmm. Oh wow. uh,
that's actually
I,
an
I
interesting
date
an
I
interesting
date
point.
age appropriate women. Age
yeah.
appropriate.
I like this guy.
Very nice.
How do you know if someone's a good person or not? I'm asking you about like your instincts and your gut instincts. I know if there's a way to communicate that, but I would like to know if someone's coming into my life, whether or not they're gonna be good for me or bad for me, so I can know to
Yeah,
avoid
I
them
agree
or
with
stick with them.
I agree with that question. Yeah, like what kind of signs would you look
Yep.
for in a person to say this is a bad person?
Well, if a person doesn't tell you the truth and it's obvious that
Mm-hmm.
they changed their story, that's a red flag.
Yep.
Right? If they
Mm-hmm.
um, if they steal from you, that's a red flag. If they steal from
Yeah.
other people, that's a red flag. If they treat other people badly, that's a red flag. If they'll do it to someone else, they'll do it to you. I told a friend of mine, we were friends with the same group. I used to run a mastermind. And this one guy and we got into a disagreement, and I yelled at him. Well, he lied to everybody, and he said that I had called him all these names. And I didn't call him those names. I just was pissed at him, and I yelled at him. And I apologized after. And then he got so mad that he blew up the mastermind and blew up our friendship. And this other friend of mine decided to stay friends with him. And I said to him, I said, listen, you're a grown ass man. You can do whatever you want. But if he did it to me, he can do it to you. And if you think this is about me and my behavior, you are wrong. This is about him and his own deep-seated bullshit that he's never dealt with. And today I spoke to that friend of mine, and he said that this guy yelled at him in the middle of a meeting, like yelled at him
Oof.
for no reason, just hammered him. And he got so upset. He goes, well, I told him, listen, I haven't done anything to you. This is your own shit. So fuck you, basically. And I said, well, I told you.
You must have laughed. You've been like, I told you so. I told you this was going to happen. All right. I had a few more questions, and because we're running out of time, let's go into it. Let's talk about your health journey. I know you're going into bodybuilding, but you weren't always a bodybuilder. You were definitely thicker, maybe, for sure, back in the day. So how did that change come about
It's one of
for you?
Well, actually, all my life I've been pretty healthy and fit up until my mid 40s.
Mhm.
About the age of 45, 46, I started to not be as fit. I started to gain a little bit of weight. And then from over like about a 12-year period, I gained about over 50 pounds. Went from like 175 to 227, 52 pounds. And
oh wow.
every year I tell myself, I'm going to get fit again. I used to be a trainer. I know what I'm doing, but every year I gained weight. Finally, I looked myself in the mirror. I said, you're full of shit. You don't know how to fucking lose weight. You're not a trainer anymore. Get a trainer. So I found a guy, IFBB pro bodybuilder. I hired him, and he does online coaching, and he coached me. In 6 months, I dropped 58 pounds. I went from 227 to 169.
Wow.
And,
Whoa.
it was great, but I also felt that I didn't look the way I wanted to look. So I wanted to reshape my body. So I told him, let's do a bodybuilding show so I can, put on some upper body mass. So I gained back some weight, mostly like muscle, whatever. But now I'm in the process of cutting for the show. So I'm down to 167. So
Wow.
from my high, I'm down 60 pounds now. And the show's this week. And, I made a decision. I didn't want to be a fat fuck anymore. And I made a decision that I was going to get a coach and I was going to listen to him. And his name is Amr the Hammer Camera. He's Lebanese, Canadian guy.
All right.
And Amr got me in shape, man. He's the man. But I say this to anybody. If there's anything in your life you want to change, first you have to make a decision that you're going to fucking do it. And you have to commit. You got to be willing to suck at it before you're average at it, before you're good at it, before you're great at it. Then you got to be coachable. You can't do it your way. Your way is what got you into this mess in the first place. And then finally, you got to be resourceful. You got to put in time, energy, money, whatever it takes to achieve your goal. So be decisive, be committed, be coachable, and be resourceful. That's how you can go from broke to rich, from fat to fit, from loveless to a life full of love.
Love it. Okay, cool.
Wow, those are important
I
lessons
had
to keep in mind.
another question to ask about the Olympics. Pretty much. So I know you've worked with a lot of Olympians in the past, and so what are Olympic athletes like? Are they insecure, or are they like more egotistical? I don't know. Or are they really that hard workers, or are they just genetically gifted? Tell us.
They work hard. They work their asses off. Without that, they wouldn't get anywhere. Some of them are egotistical. Most of them aren't. And genetically gifted, I suppose some are, but most of the winners I knew, they just worked hard. They had a plan, and that's how they won. Even
Success.
Usain Bolt, right? The great Usain Bolt, greatest sprinter of all time. You have no idea how hard he worked to be the greatest sprinter of all time. This didn't just happen.
Fair. Yeah, I believe it. So you need to have that vision, and you need to mastermind. So my last question is about the masterminds and the vision. How has vision changed from when you've written, your books with the advent of internet and social media, and the how the world is changing? Um, do you have any updates on leadership for us young young adults? Yeah.
Um, the principles of leadership will never change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, technology changes, all of that. You gotta stay on top of that. How you communicate, all of that. But the principles of leadership, of success, they're timeless. Don't look for the latest thing. Look for the thing that's been around and worked forever. Principles will never change. Technology and fashion will change every day.
Wow. So stick to the principles. Got it. Said, anything you want to ask about masterminds?
I don't have a question about masterminds, but if you do, Ali, go ahead.
Oh, tell us about how you do masterminds then to get to your maximum potential.
Well, I run some professional masterminds myself now. Back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, I just got a few like minded friends together. That's how we got started. But if you are a man and you want to be around a group of men, I
Mm-hmm.
run a mastermind for men called the Sovereign Circle. And it's all about uplifting men, manhood, masculinity, because the world today is very anti-man, and you need a place where they're going to celebrate you as a man and not take a shit on you for being a man.
Mm,
And so come check out that. If you're in business and you want to be part of a group of people that are up to big things and wanting to grow and get bigger and better, I
yeah,
got a couple of masterminds in that regard. One that helps you with sales, the other one that helps you with business growth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jump on my calendar. Let's have a call. Nicky Billou can be found at ecircleacademy.com/appointment. You get to my personal calendar. There's no fee associated with that booking. Just get on the call. Let's talk. Go from there.
Love it. Said, what did we
awesome.
learn today?
Well, there's a lot of topics that we crossed over. Talked about, first of all, Trump is a better president than Kamala Harris. That's an important one. Talked about freedom. We talked about how to build the business and the partnerships that are included with it. We talked about communism and how negative that is going to be to the economy. We talked about the male role in in life and how it's changing. And there's a lot of principles and lessons that we've learned in this discussion with Nikki. I hope everyone has learned as much as we have on this podcast. And Nikki, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Um, is there
Having me on the
anything else
show.
you'd like to shout out, or how people can connect with you and maybe even become your clients? Sorry for the voice crack.
I think I already said if they want to jump on my calendar, that's the best way. But the last thing I want to say is, if you're having, if right now in this moment your belief in yourself is wobbly, you don't quite believe
Mm,
in you and how great you are and what you can accomplish because life has beat you down a little bit. I just want to encourage you to find someone who believes in you to show you who you really are. And if you don't readily have someone like that in your life, then just go to my calendar. You don't need to call my calendar just to be my client. You can just call my calendar and say, I'm not feeling good and I need somebody to lift me up. I'm happy to talk to you. Just go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. And there's a form you fill out. And in the form, just write down, I don't believe in myself right now. And I'll know to come to the call, to believe in you, to show you who the fuck you really are. Because one little spark of belief can turn into a roaring fire, and then you'll never look back.
Uh-huh.
Straight to the
Love
point.
that
I love that,
message.
Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people need to hear. Thank you so much for coming onto this show. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this
Subscribe.
episode.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, we salute to cover the camera to end the show. If you want, you can join us. If not, you don't have to. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.
Okay.